Hello, welcome to Biology, the scientific study of life. Note that hormone-secreting cells are present in many organs belonging to other systems, including the heart, thymus, liver, stomach, small intestine, kidney, and placenta. A relationship between the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. The hypothalamus plays an important role in integrating the vertebrate endocrine and nervous systems. This region to the underside of the brain receives information from nerves through the body and from other parts of the brain, and it initiates endocrine signals appropriate to environmental conditions. In many vertebrates, for example, the brain passes sensory information about seasonal changes and the availability of a mate or to the hypothalamus by means of nerve signals. The hypothalamus then triggers the release of reproductive hormones required for breeding. The hypothalamus contains two sets of neurosecretory cells whose hormonal secretions are stored in or regulate the activity of the pituitary glands. A lima bean-sized organ located at the base of the hypothalamus. No organ illustrates the close structural, functional, and developmental relationships between the endocrine and nervous systems better than the pituitary glands. It has discrete posterior and anterior parts, which are actually two fused glands that develop from separate regions of the embryo and perform very different functions. The posterior pituitary or neurohypothesis is an extension of the hypothalamus that grows downward toward the mouth during embryonic development. It stores and secretes two hormones that are made by certain neurosecretory cells located in the hypothalamus. The longer process axons of these cells are carry the hormones to the posterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary or adenohypothesis hypothesis develops from a fold of tissue at the roof of the embryonic mouth. This tissue grows upward toward the brain and eventually loses its connection to the mouth. The anterior pituitary consists of endocrine cells that synthesizes and secrete at least 6 different hormones. Several of these hormones have other endocrine glands, and their targets hormones that regulate the function of endocrine organs, called tropic hormones, are particularly important in coordinating endocrine signaling through the body. The anterior pituitary itself is regulated by tropic hormones produced by a set of neurosecretory cells in the hypothalamus. Some hypothalamic tropic hormones, called releasing hormones, stimulate the anterior pituitary to release its hormones, while others, called inhibiting hormones, inhibit its hormone secretion. The hypothalamic releasing and inhibiting hormones are secreted near capillaries at the base of the hypothalamus. The capillaries drain into short blood vessels called portal vessels that subdivide into a second capillary bed within the anterior pituitary. In this way, the hypothalamic tropic hormones have direct access to the gland they control. Every anterior pituitary hormone is controlled by at least one releasing hormone, and some have both a releasing hormone and an inhibiting hormone. Notice that. Posterior pituitary hormones. As shown in this figure, the posterior pituitary releases two hormones, antidiuretic hormones, notice that, ADH and oxytocin, both are peptides made by neurosecretory cells in the hypothalamus, and those, strictly speaking, are neurohormones. They function in simple neurohormone pathways. Antidiuretic hormone ADH acts on the kidneys, increasing water retention and thus decreasing urine volume. It's part of the elaborate mechanism that helps regulate the osmolarity of the blood. This mechanism illustrates the importance of negative feedback in maintaining homeostasis and the central role of hypothalamus as a member of both the endocrine system and the nervous system. Oxytocin induces target cells in the uterine muscles to contract during childbirth. As described earlier, it also causes the mammary glands to eject milk during nursing. Oxytocin signaling in both cases exhibits positive feedback. Anterior pituitary hormones. The anterior pituitary hormones produces many different hormones. Function strictly as tropic hormones, stimulating the synthesis and releases of hormones from the thyroid gland, adrenal glands, and gonads. Several others exert only direct non-tropic effects on non-endocrine organs, and one growth hormone has both tropic and non-tropic actions. Tropic hormones, three of the exclusively tropic hormones secreted by the anterior pituitary are closely related in their chemical structure. Follicle stimulating hormone FSH, luteinizing hormone LH, and thyroid stimulating hormone TSH are all similar glycoproteins, proteins molecules with carbohydrates attached to them. FCH and LH are also called gonadotropins because they stimulate the activities of the male and female gonads, the testes and ovaries. TSH promotes normal development of the thyroid gland and the production of thyroid hormones. Adrenocorticotropic hormone ACTH, the fourth anterior pituitary tropic hormone, is unrelated structurally to the others. It is a peptide hormone derived by cleavage of a large precursor protein. ACTH stimulates the production and secretion of steroid hormones by adrenal cortex. All four anterior pituitary tropic hormones participate in complex neuroendocrine pathways. In each pathway, signals to the brain stimulate releases of hypothalamic neurohormone that in turn stimulates release of an anterior pituitary tropic hormone. The anterior pituitary tropic hormone then acts on its target endocrine tissue, stimulating secretion of yet another hormone that exerts systemic, metabolic, or developmental effect. Non-tropic hormones. Non-tropic hormones produced by the anterior pituitary include prolactin, melanocyte stimulating hormone MSH, and endorphin. These peptide protein hormones whose secretion is controlled by hypothalamic hormones or function in simple neuroendocrine pathways. The most remarkable characteristic of prolactin PRL is the great diversity of effects it produces in different vertebrate species. For example, prolactin stimulates mammary gland growth and milk synthesis in mammals, regulates fat metabolism and reproduction in bears, delays metamorphosis in amphibians, where it may also function as a larval growth hormone, and regulates salt and water balance in freshwater fishes. This list suggests that prolactin is an ancient hormone whose functions have diversified during the evolution of the various vertebrate groups. As described earlier, Melanocyte-stimulating hormone (MSH) regulates the activity of pigment-containing cells in the skin of some fishes, amphibians, and reptiles. In mammals, MCH appears to act on neurons in the brain, inhibiting hunger. Endorphin belongs to a class of chemical signals called endorphins. Certain neurons in the brain also produce endorphins. All the endorphins bind to receptors in the brain and dull to the perception of pain. Some researchers speculate that the so-called runner's high results partly from the release of endorphins when stress and pain in the body reach critical levels. Both MSH and B endorphin are formed by a cleavage of the same precursor protein that gives rise to ACTH. Growth hormone GH is also similar structure to prolactin. The scientists hypothesize that the genes directing their production evolved from the same ancestral gene. GH acts on a wide variety of target tissues and has both tropic and non-tropic effects. Its major tropic action is to signal the liver to release insulin-like growth factors, IGFs, which circulate in the blood and directly stimulate bone and cartilage growth. In the absence of GH, the skeleton of an immature animal stops growing. Injecting the hormone into an animal experimentally deprived of its own supply partially restores the animal's growth. GH also exerts diverse metabolic effects that tend to raise blood glucose, thus opposing the effects of insulin. Abnormal production of GH in humans can result in several disorders depending on when the problem occurs and whether it involves hypersecretion, which means too much, or hyposecretion, too little. Hypersecretion of GH during childhood can lead to gigantism, in which the person grows unusually tall as 8 feet, 2.4 meter. Though body proportions remain relatively normal, excessive productive of GH in adulthood, a condition known as acromegaly, stimulates bony growth in a few tissues that are still responsive in the hormone, such as in the face, hands, and feet. Hyposecretion of GH in childhood retards long bone growth and can lead to pituitary dwarfism. Individuals with this disorder generally reach a height of only about 4 feet, 1.2 meter. Though body proportions remain relatively normal if diagnosed before puberty. Pituitary dwarfism can be treated successfully with the human GH for many years. The supply of GH isolated from cadaver pituitaries fell far short of demand. In the mid 1980s, genetic engineers learned to produce human GH by inserting DNA encoding the hormone into bacteria. Thereby, with genetically engineered GH is now fairly routine for children with pituitary dwarfism. Some athletes take GH in the belief that it can improve athletic performance. However, research has shown that in healthy adults who are not hormone deficient, GH has little impact on muscle mass and strength.